Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. Today I'm going to be doing a layout process video for the page you see on the screen. I'm going to be creating a classic grid, but I'm going to be stepping it up with the help of a very new tool from Simple Stories called a page template. Super easy, but I absolutely loved it. I'm also going to be using material from the Hello Today collection, again from Simple Stories. So on my desk, I have a frame style foundation prepared, and I did that with 2 sheets of paper, and I gutted one of them. There's a tutorial on my channel where I do that, so that will be linked up below. I've trimmed down 3 photos. I'm showing you a bunch of paper. That striped paper there, I do plan to use both sides of it. One of them is a cut apart sheet. And I also have stickers from this collection. I have foam titles, I have brads, and there's the page template that I'll be using to help me make this grid. And I also have some dies called Stitched So Sweetly from Stampin UP. Now the first thing I'm going to do is prepare myself a mini page, and that's going to be where I place my photos, my journaling, my title, and pretty much everything. So what I'm doing is cutting down a bunch of strips of paper here, well, 3 strips of paper. And what I'll do is I'm going to adhere them together. Right now they're all 12-inch lengths and different widths. I'm going to adhere these 3 strips together, and then what I'll do is trim it down. And what I'm going to be doing is trimming it down to the very same size of that page template that I showed you earlier in this video. Now for the measurements on the screen, all I'm going to put is the measurement of the mini page. And I'm using 3 strips of paper. You can use 2, you can use all of 1. But keep in mind that when I'm creating it, I made them bigger. I left them all at 12-inch strips, and it was after that that I trimmed it down. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm putting in this striped paper, which is absolutely gorgeous, but when I put my page together, I ended up completely covering it up. And that's something that happens in the creative process. Sometimes we do that. We put things down, we think it looks great, but by the time the page is finished, we end up covering it up. So I don't want to make you do something that you're going to end up covering up. So you can see me putting that page template on there. I just want to make sure I have the right size. And again, I'm putting measurements for all of this on the screen. I'm trimming it down. And what I'm doing here is really stepping up this grid design with the help of this template, but I think I'm probably using it outside its original intention, which was to create a page quickly and easily. What I'm doing is I'm going to step it up. You'll see I continue doing this. So you can kind of see how I plan to place my photos. And I will put measurements, like I said, for the photos and all of that on the screen. What I do want to do is create some frames for these photos. So I'm getting out these dies from Stampin UP, and what they are, it's called Stitched So Sweetly. I'll put everything I'm using in the description box below, but they are scalloped rectangles, and the edges have an embossed stitching around them. So what I'm going to do is layer up the 2 largest ones, one inside the other, and what that's going to do, it's going to create a frame, a scalloped frame, and the inside is simply going to be a scalloped rectangle, sorry. So you're going to see me, I run this through the Big Shot. You may have noticed earlier I put in an extra piece of paper underneath the clear plastic plate. That's because my Big Shot is really old, and I just wanted it to cut out crisply, and I was worried it wasn't, and I didn't want to get out my precision plate. So there you see me, I have the frame there, and I'm showing you the stitching all around the edge, and I have that other rectangle. Now off camera, I cut myself out another 2, so I have 3 frames and 3 of those rectangles. I also cut out some white rectangles in scrap cardstock. Each one of those has 2 layers, and each one of those is the very same size as the photo. So what you're going to see is I adhere the frames on top of each one of those photos, and behind each photo I adhere one of those white rectangles, that's just going to raise the photo up a little bit. When I put the grid together, those photos are just going to pop off the page a little bit. So keep in mind the white cardstock there, each one of those has 2 pieces stuck together. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I will stop the film because this is actually quite repetitive. I do it for all 3 photos. And then what I'm going to do is, well, I'm showing you how they are all adhered together, but I'm putting that template on top of the mini page, the mini foundation page that I created earlier, and showing you how I'm positioning them. Now, at this point, I decide to put a journaling box in the middle at the top instead of the green rectangle, and that, again, is from the flip side of that striped paper. Now, before adhering any of this together, I want to add some faux stitching around the edge of that mini page. So I'm using a template from Stampin' Up. It's an old retired template. And what it is, it's a template that has these little holes. I'm poking holes with a paper piercing tool, and then I'm simply joining the holes together with a fine tip black marker, and it looks like black stitching around the edge. Now, what I'm showing you is another product because obviously the Stampin' Up one no longer exists, but that ruler I just showed you is from Tim Holtz. It's a current product, and it does have holes in it. The paper piercing tool fits perfectly through it, and you can do that very same thing. So now what I'm doing is positioning the template on top of my mini foundation page. Those are clips from Creative Memories. I've had them for many, many years. You could also use washi tape if you wanted to position one on top of the other. Basically, I don't want it to move when I'm adhering these blocks inside the blocks on this template. So what I'm doing is adhering my photos, and I'm also adhering the journaling box and the little green boxes. Now keep in mind, mine aren't the exact same size as the holes on this template. The holes are 3 by 4. And as you can see, for example, those green ones are smaller. But what I'm doing is just eyeballing it, positioning them in the middle. Now this is a really simple tool, but anything for me that saves me measuring too much is worth it. And this template, I didn't pay $4 for it. I got mine at thescrapbook.com, and there are 5 different ones. I got 4 of them. Anyway, I really like it. What I'm doing right now is cutting some more rectangles, a little bit smaller with those very same dies from Stampin' Up. One of them in striped paper, one of them in the floral paper, and I'm going to place them on top of those rectangles, those green rectangles. Again, I'm just stepping up my grid design here. I also have all of my embellishing around me. So you can see I have the title there, which is Everyday Details. That came from that foam thicker sheet, and I literally cut it right out of the sheet because it's backed with a clear cellophane, so it makes it easy for placement. And now I'm just playing around with the stickers, the chipboard, and all the different pieces that I have, essentially trying to create some embellishment clusters. I'm going to have one in the bottom left, one in the bottom right. My title is going to go right underneath in the middle, and I am going to want to add something in and around that journaling box up top. But I do play around a lot. The only thing I really know at this point is that I do want the title in the bottom middle, and I want the embellishment clusters to have different visual weights. I don't want the one at the bottom left to take up as much visual space as the one at the bottom right. I want them to be unequal. So now what I'm doing is adhering the little papers on top of the green blocks and adhering the entire mini foundation page on top of the main foundation page. And I'm also positioning it so it's a little bit more towards the top, simply because I know that my title is going to go at the bottom. You may also have noticed before I added a little bit of foam adhesive to that title at the beginning of the word everyday and at the end, because it's overlapping that photo in the middle, which is already raised up a bit. So I just wanted that title to lay flat across the page, And that's why I had to add foam adhesive at the beginning of the word and at the end of the word. So I'm just simply additioning different pieces in all of those different embellishment areas I mentioned earlier. I do end up putting that chipboard tag that says hello today in the bottom left. And at one point I thought about putting details up in the journaling box, but I figured it would hide too much of my journaling area. And again, I'm just playing around with different pieces here. Again, like I mentioned, I don't want there to be the same visual weight in each one of these embellishment clusters. And you see me going around with this piece that says, this is real life or something. It's another piece of chipboard, that red one I had a moment ago. I felt it had as much of a visual impact as that tag over on the bottom left. So that's why I didn't end up using that. Now what I'm doing is going into the sticker sheet and I'm looking at those word stickers, and I really kind of like lining up those word stickers. They are in a lot of different products these days. And you can see what I'm doing. I'm kind of justifying it to the right hand side. And it doesn't really show here what I'm seeing on the screen right now, but in person you do see it. It is an embellishment cluster, but it's much more subtle than the one over on the bottom left. And I actually quite like that. At this point, looking at those word stickers, I decide I want to put one above the word every day, but you're going to see I quickly change my mind and immediately remove it. But I end up not wrecking it. It goes right back on the sticker sheet, so I can use that for another time. You can also see I have that red heart there at the bottom. That one is part of the foam thicker sheet. I do want to add red in 2 more spots because of that. So I end up putting an enamel dot in the hole of that tag over there on the bottom left. And I do want to put something up there in the journaling box in red, but I'm not quite sure what at this point. Right now I decide to change one of the words in that bottom right. I decide to put c'est la vie because it is in Quebec and we speak French here. And I end up with a red heart up there in the journaling box. Anyway, you can see I'm kind of giving you a play-by-play of all the different embellishment changes that I'm making. I do play around a lot with it. I end up adding that globe over there that has a red heart. Because of that red heart in the journaling box, I ended up wanting to put a 3rd red heart, and there is one on that globe, and it's kind of tucked behind that tag. So I'm happy with that. And now what I did basically off camera, obviously I did my journaling, but you can kind of see it squished up at the bottom. I just want to point out that that journaling tag, the lines were quite far apart, and I don't like it when my writing is really big. I prefer it to be squished up. So I ended up adding lines in between each line, squishing up my journaling, and then you can see at the top there, I ended up removing the heart that was there earlier. I put a little circle that had the date there, July, and I put a 2 in front of it. So it kind of served as July 20, and I was kind of happy with that. And I ended up in that bottom right corner adding a little speech bubble with a little heart in it. So I ended up with my 3 hearts on the page after all. So there you have it, the page I created. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I really did enjoy working with that Simple Stories template. I know it's super easy, but I'm always using my ruler to straighten things up. So for me to be able to position 6 things on a page and have the spacing in between each one already measured out was really worth it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. And I'll see you soon on YouTube. Bye-bye.